Hi, this is Mrs. Rodriguez with another lesson video. Today we're looking at converting decimals into fractions. So we're going to look at two different methods, but they're actually the same kind of method, just looking at it in two different ways. So the first one's using place value, and the second one is using base 10 multiples. So let's take a look at the first method, converting decimals into fractions using place value. The steps are, first you find the place value of the last number after the decimal. Okay, so in our first example, you will notice that the last number after the decimal is 5. And if we look at our chart, the second number after the decimal is the hundredths place. Okay, the root number of the place value tells which base 10 multiple to use as the denominator. So if this is the hundredths, then the root word is going to be 100. So for step 2, that means we're going to stick 100 under it. 75 goes over 100. Now, step 3 is you simplify the fraction. So we have 75 over 100. We divide both by 5, get 15 over 20, divide again by 5, and we get 3/4. Okay, so that's using place value. You find the place value of the last number behind the decimal, and that tells you what base 10 multiple, meaning 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, etc., what number makes the denominator or the bottom number of your fraction. And remember, 0.75% means out of 100. Okay, it means out of 100. So, method 2, converting decimals into fractions using base 10. So the steps are, make a decimal a fraction by placing a 1 under it. Then you're going to multiply whatever base 10 multiple, 10, 100, 1,000, etc., needed to make the decimal a whole number. Another trick way of doing it that's even faster is to count how many numbers are after the decimal, and that will tell you which multiple of 10 you need. And then last but not least, and of course, simplify your fraction. So let's take a look at our example. We have convert 0.75 once again into a fraction. So the first thing we're going to do is stick a 1 under it. It's just like a whole number. If you had like the number 4, you make it into a fraction by just sticking a 1 under it. You're doing the same thing, even though it's a decimal. All right, step 2. You count how many numbers are after the decimal, and there's 2. If we do the quick method, how many numbers after the decimal tell you which multiple of 10 you need. What that means is if there's 2 numbers after the decimal, then you use a 0 for every number that's after the decimal. So if it's 2 numbers after the decimal, it would be 100, 2 zeros. 2 numbers, 2 zeros. Okay, if it was 0.752, now we would have 1, 2, 3 numbers after the decimal. So that means we would have to multiply by 1,000. Okay, so the number of numbers you have after the decimal tells you what multiple of 10, because for every number after the decimal is how many zeros. So 1 0, then it's going to be 10. 2 zeros, 100. 3 zeros, 1,000. 4 zeros, 10,000, etc. Also, you will notice the whole point of multiplying by the base 10 is to get it so that it's a whole number and no longer a decimal. So that means you can just go from here, right? And you know you're multiplying by 100, so you can go straight from that to, okay, I know I'm going to have a whole number on top. And the bottom number, there's 2 numbers after the decimal, so that means 2 zeros, so I automatically know that there's going to be 100 underneath. You don't even have to multiply anything, because remember, the top number is always going to be the decimal changed into a whole number. And 1 times anything is itself. So 1 times 10 would be 10, 1 times 1,000 would be 1,000. So whatever your base 10 multiple is, that's going to always be your denominator. And then last but not least, you would solve as always until you get 3/4. All right, let's take a look at another example. Here we have convert 0.125 into a fraction. So I'm going to do this both ways so you can see the difference. So first I'm going to use place value. So this is 0.125. We have the last number after the decimal is the 5, and that 5 is in the thousandths place. Okay, it's in the thousandths place. So that means our root word is going to be 1,000. So that means I'm going to be multiplying by 1,000. Now, if I multiply by 1,000, I know I'm going to get a whole number on top, so it's going to be 125, and then 1,000 on the bottom. And then we simplify like usual. So 125 divided by 5, 1,000 divided by 5. I get 25 over 200. And I know 25 goes into 200 8 times, so it's going to be 1 over 8. Okay, now remember, for this one, we took that 0.125, okay, we're doing method number 1, and this root number becomes the denominator. So let me change this to all right. Now, let's take a look at a different way of doing this. So that way was looking at the place value, okay? And if you don't remember your place values, it would be a good idea to go ahead and memorize this chart or write it in your notes so that you know what your place values are, okay? So other than place values, what we could have also done is go, okay, 0.125. I know that it's going to be over 1 as a fraction. I need to make that top number into a whole number, and there's 3 numbers after the decimal. So 3 numbers, let me actually move this. 3 numbers equals 3 zeros, so it's going to be 1,000 this time. So that means we're going to be multiplying the top number by 1,000, and we're going to be multiplying that 1 by 1,000. We know the goal of this is to get a whole number on top, so I don't even have to multiply it because I know it's going to end up equaling 125. And 1 times 1,000 is just 1,000, and we can just jump straight to here. So if you want, you can just do it this way. Count how many numbers are after the decimal. The number of numbers is how many zeros, and that's how you figure out what multiple of 10 you're using. Okay? You know you're supposed to have a whole number on top, and 1 times whatever your multiple is will be the multiple on the bottom. So this will be your denominator. Okay, and then once again, we divide until we get our fraction in the simplest form, meaning we can't divide anymore. Okay? All right, let's take a look at another example. Here we have convert 5.2 into a fraction. So we have 5.2. Now this one's a little different because we have a whole number in our decimal, right? We have this 5, which is a whole number, not a decimal. So because it's a whole number, we leave it alone. We leave it alone, okay? It's not a decimal. We don't have to change anything with it, all right? Now I look at the 0.2 and I go, okay, well, 2 is one number after the decimal. So that means we're going to use a multiple with 1 0, which would be just 10, because 10 has 1 0. Or you could think of it as 2 is in the, let's check, what place? 2's in, if I were to write 5.2, 2 would be in the tenths place. The root word of tenths is 10. All right, so that means we're going to leave 5 alone. The 0.2 we're going to turn into a fraction, and you can either think of it as multiplying by 10 on your numerator and denominator, or there's one number after the decimal, therefore it's in the tenths place, so it's going to be the number out of 10. It's all pretty much the same thing, okay? Once again, we have to divide our fraction, and we end up with 5 1/5, which is a mixed number. So as you can see, the 5 works with the fraction because it just makes it into a mixed number. So that's why you can leave the whole numbers alone. All right, so as always, if you have any questions or need additional information, feel free to make an appointment with me for office hours. Hope you have a great day. Bye.